I'm a 3D artist, and in this video, I'll be completely remaking the scene from Hazbin Hotel. So I've been a huge fan of the show for quite some time now. I have songs on my playlist, watch every ounce of content, all that fun stuff. So I just had to remake this scene. So if you like what you see, be sure to drop a like and subscribe. So without further ado, let's get started, shall we? First things first, I need to look for reference, because in order to make it faithful to the original, I need something to go off of. And I stumbled across this Adam and Loot scene. Good news, this scene was easy to make, but bad news, I literally don't have an Adam or Loot 3D model. So, time to do things the old-fashioned way.
2 days later.
Well, after spoiling my entire weekend, I finally made 2 models. They're not the greatest models in the world, but they will do. So with my newfound reference and my newly made 3D models, I created a desk and began posing Loot. I didn't bother making a facial rig for either of them, so here I am sculpting their expressions again. This time I had gums and teeth though to spice things up. Additionally, I learned that Loot's tongue is gray, which is just something we'll have to live with now. Now, I imported the Adam model and scaled him up to match the scene. And then I adjusted his pose until I got something that I liked. Sadly, once again, these are rush models, so this robe had a freaking aneurysm every time I moved it. And it continued to cause problems. So eventually, I just sculpted his clothes because I had enough of it. Now, the background. The scene isn't the hardest thing in the world. It's literally just a desk and a wall. So, awapa boom malaka zayam, I added a flat plane behind them. So now, with all this fruition, let's check out the scene. And it looks like crap. So we gotta do some texturing. So I gotta be honest, the entire scene takes place in heaven, where there are literally 0 imperfections. And me being the edgelord that I am, I'm usually used to dark and gritty scenes, so the materials were especially challenging for me. So I began giving everything static colors to differentiate the scene, and I began with the back wall. Initially, I wanted to go for some purple sandstone that was retextured, but I stumbled across some great plaster textures. So I added some bumps and dents to give it some texture. Furthermore, I added a nice gradient with the colors from the reference, and I adjusted it until I got something I liked. Furthermore, I added some more subtle imperfections to make it more realistic. With the desk, I added a gold texture for the surface, adding a ton of minuscule dents to it to give it some minuscule imperfections. And then I added a nice marble texture to spice things up. Now, I added some white poles behind them, because in the show, there's a shot where you can see this, like, 2 dragons with these white poles. But it's not in this shot. So I'm assuming there was some miscommunication with the background artist, but nonetheless, I added them just to make it pop out a little more. Also added a white arc by shamelessly reusing my desk. Now it's time to light this bad boy. You see, because I only go for darker, gritty scenes, this one was especially difficult for me. I tried so many different things, but none of them worked, and I kid you not, it took me 30 minutes to get my shit together for this scene. So, when I finally found some lighting that I was happy with, I made some subtle changes to the models, like changing Loot's clothes and making Adam's mask glow a bit more. Compositing. OG Mr. Moofington fans will know that I am the compositor. It's literally the best thing in my opinion. So I added some glow in the scene with a glare node and blurred the background with some more nodes and with the mist modifier, just to make the character stand out a tad more. And finally I added some distortion along the edges to get that, you know, cinematic feel. And then I boot up Canva, which if you don't know, it's basically bootleg Photoshop on the web. But it's so good. I added some light beams, and without further ado, here's the final product. I'm actually super happy with how it turned out. Although it's not as complicated as the Gyutaro Daki piece, it looks really good in my opinion. And with that being said, everyone, have an excellent evening and a fantastic night, and I'll see you in the next video. Au revoir.
Let me get this straight. You go down there and kill those poor souls. Didn't know.
Whoops.
Yes, the cat's out of the bag.
What's the big deal?
Sarah, tell me that you didn't know.
I thought since I'm older, it's my load to shoulder.
No.
You have to listen, it was such a hard decision. I wanted to save you, the anguish it takes to do